What's up, beautiful people? Welcome back to another episode of Grief Bully Podcast. I am your host, J.Nicole. Guys, I am back in the studio, rocking and rolling. Looking forward to this episode. I am not by myself today. I have a guest, a phenomenal guest, dope person, dope artist. He is not a stranger to the show. Welcome back, Kev Rodgers. What's up, my guy?
What is going on? I am blessed to be waking up and blessed to be here. So we're here.
We here. Mm-hmm. I appreciate it. Listen, we had a conversation. We do know is about 2 years ago, almost to the date that we had the opportunity to sit down. Yeah. At that time, we were talking about grief, of course, and the loss of one of your friends, Jose. May he continue to rest in peace as well. And then we were talking recently, like, hey, maybe you should come back on the show. We can talk a little bit about more where you are now. The thing about grief that I find very difficult is you go through one loss, and that just rocks your world, and you're still trying to navigate it and push through. And then you turn around and you lose someone else that you love. Right. So it's like all this work I did and trying to be positive and push through life, and then I just get hit again right there. And so I know you unfortunately had another loss that happened not too long ago of your brother.
Yep.
And so I want to just talk about that a little, just where you are right now.
Yeah. That's why I started off by saying that, I'm blessed to be alive, first of all, because you gotta count your blessings after a lot of things been going on. But, it's been probably the most erratic journey, I can say. I believe in what I believe in. So, I feel like God, tests his toughest soldiers. You feel what I'm saying? So, I done been through a lot. But my mother is my rock. That's somebody who's been able to keep me, she's a minister, so she's spiritually been guiding me too through this whole process. And it's some days you wake up and you're kind of like in this portal of like what's happening. And then some days you wake up and then you just get that same inspirational thing that they said. And it kind of turns your day from that light switch being off to like, okay, here we go. It's time to go again. So it's such like a 0 to 100, analogy is the best analogy I can give how my days are. But I would say my faith is keeping my balance. That's what I would say.
So when we talk about that, how long ago has it been since your brother passed?
Yeah, so it's coming up on, it's about to actually come up on 2 years in October, which is crazy to think that's that fast. So Jose would be 3 years already that fast.
Yeah, I know when I saw that your brother had passed away on Instagram, I was so hurt by that. I was like, man, like your spirit and your light, you just have such a positive energy in this world. And when you see, I guess I would consider it bad things happening to good people and their family. And I would see videos of just how close you and your brothers and your mother were and are. And it was just like, like you just don't like to see that.
Yeah.
What is that like? Like, how did you find out? Because I'm hoping that it wasn't like a social media type thing. It's your brother, but I feel like when we see that, we're like this layer behind it. So the family's already dealing with this pain. Then people in the public, we see it, but you're dealing with that firsthand.
Right. So ended up what happening was, so there was a situation. I think my brother went to go watch the Lakers game. I think the Lakers was in the finals around that time, and I think that's the last time somebody said they saw him or was out. Gary watched the game, then he left that night. And unfortunately, within the next, I'm gonna be honest with you, next hours or so, somebody was like, something ain't right. Like we don't know where he at. We don't know what's going on. And, of course, I'm gonna be honest about this, so I don't care what happens. But we didn't even get the call that that he, had passed away until my mom didn't find out until, I wouldn't say that afternoon the next day, and he was pronounced dead by 5 o'clock in the morning. So my brother was actually laying out dead for 6 hours before we found out. Oh. And not only that, the body had got to the hospital already without our consent. We didn't even identify the body when we found out the situation. So we were getting spun around. My mom's talking to police departments, talking about a whole bunch of stuff that's just going on. And I want to be honest and truthful, because I actually talked to my mom this morning. I'm like, Mom, how honest can I be? And she was like, listen, this is your truth. We know who we are, and we were protected, we covered. So tell your truth. So anyway, we tried to go on like a little hunt, trying to find him, see what was going on. And we had his girlfriend at the time, Katrina, a couple other close friends that was involved, trying to find him, his best friend, Pierre. Everybody was trying to see what was going on. Next thing you know, my mom calls me and says, hey, it's true. Now I was with a close female friend at the time at her house. So I got the call, and it's literally deja vu. I got a call again about, yeah, it's true. He's your brother's dead. I'm like, what? And I, of course, I blacked out. I was on the floor, and I shout out to, the female friend that she's still with me now. She holds me down. So she was there with me that whole time. And obviously, I was hysterical because I'm sitting here like, okay, this isn't real. And from that point on, it kind of clicked into my head. And, she actually told me, she would say that I was saying the time in my hysterical moment that I can't quit. I can't stop. I got to go. Because that's just kind of my DNA or what it is. So that's one of those things, too, about, when you're in those moments, sometimes your true feelings come out even when you're sad. So the things you're saying could be superly extreme, but there's some truth behind what you're saying, even though you may not remember it because you just blacked out in that moment. So when I remember her saying that I was saying that and seeing where I'm at now, I'm like, man, there was something in me about that. So, but yeah, we ended up finding late about the situation. Fast forward, even throughout the days after, we didn't even find out how he passed away. There was something involved. My brother had a condition that he wasn't really in the best healthy spot when it comes to how his breathing was. He had sleep apnea and stuff like that. And my brother went out to try to have a good time. And, me personally, we thought it was somebody like laced something. Be honest with you, we thought, because, right now, fentanyl killing a lot of people right now. So that's the first thing I'm thinking about. My mom, I don't know if she know, like my mom from the 80s in Canada, I mean, she know, but the drug game got a little bit different, you feel what I'm saying, since we got older. So, she doesn't really know. And all I'm trying to do is figure out what's happening. And, the type of person my brother was, everybody in the town and the city want to give me their reasons or what could have happened. So, any advice, I would say definitely have a support group, because that can get in your head. That was one thing I was doing it for the first 2 days.
Wait, explain that a little bit. What was getting in your head?
Just everybody's kind of story on what happened. Because, everybody's like, losing somebody like that, somebody wants to take responsibility. Somebody feel like they need to take responsibility. Like, because it's too impactful. It's got like, we got to find out who did it or what was the reason. And sometimes, it ain't that black and white. There's some gray lines in between. There's some fault of my brother that he partaked in, and there's also some fault of the party that he was around. Because if it's real friends, I mean, y'all know what that man was getting ready to do. He was a coach. He was actually getting ready to be a part of the varsity assistant head coaching job at Collingswood, which is the first time I think I've seen a black assistant head coach in Collingswood, which he would have been the first. And then not only that, he was also he also had gotten a new job. He was just in a new place. He ended up moving out, so he ended up because after his friend died, Matt Free RP Free, after he passed away, my brother went through a real bad depression. And he came back with us, and he stayed with me and my mom for like a good 2-3 years before that happened. And I saw kind of what that did to him mentally. And he was just getting back on his feet. And I know that's the cliche, because I feel like that always happens, right? Everybody always says it was just turning the corner, and it feels like it's God takes him away. But it's a lesson and a blessing. But yeah, as far as what's going on, we definitely it's been a lot trying to figure out what happened.
Wow, that is a lot. Thank you for sharing that and being so open. I
Absolutely.
can understand how there can be multiple layers, and why you may be like, I don't, I really want to get into certain things, but there's a lot of truth there to that. And for people who didn't hear your first time you were on the show, you got that similar call with your friend Jose, and then now you're getting this call and it has to deal with your brother. I wonder what that stems from, where in a moment of being completely broken, devastated, that we still find and grasp onto saying things like, I can't quit, I got to keep going. Do you think that that's a good thing, or do you think it's just a what thing? So meaning, should we allow ourselves to just be completely hurt and not say, hey, I'm going to keep going, I want to keep moving, like my brother just died, I'm devastated, and then let that be okay? Yeah,
I think that's you know what, as fair as that is, I feel like that's opinionated to a certain degree, because everybody's different. Like I wouldn't recommend anybody to do what I do, because I don't know how to be anybody else but myself. It's just kind of how I am. I've always been that way. We've had tragedy happen in my life a lot. I've had a lot of people. Of course, Derrick has been the biggest one that's been lost in my life to this point. But unfortunately, it feels like God was kind of preparing me for a lot of stuff, knowing that 4 of my best friends' moms passed away. My best friend gets killed in a building I'm living in. And it's just not like I stopped looking at like God's picking on me. and he's trying to tell me something. And, you know, maybe I'm supposed to be used for something. I don't know, you know, but what I'm saying I don't quit is I'm going to stay here until I find out. That's basically what my I don't quit is. It wasn't necessarily just about being successful or anything like that. It's just that, like, my I don't quit was on life, because you kind of question life at that point. You have to, right? Your perspective changes because you just see somebody smiling, light up a room, and just going in 2.5. That's kind of like, whoa, we got to really look at the definition of life. What is this? What does this mean? What are you doing? What are you doing with it? So for me, when I was saying, you know, I'm not going to quit, it's just that I'm not going to quit figuring out why I'm here. That's important to me. Like, I want to know that answer. I feel like everybody should want to know that answer. And if you ain't striving to figure that, I don't feel like you're really living, you know, to a certain extent. So for me, you're right. I don't recommend it for everybody, but I have my perspective of why I did it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that we shouldn't not recommend it, but I think because I'm similar to you,
right,
and I'm just wondering because I question it about myself, like,
right,
is this the healthiest way to do this? Because I am like that, like when I deal with tragedy as well. But I think a similar thing is that just growing up and dealing with so many things at an early age and being experienced with certain traumas and levels, I think subconsciously it just really becomes rooted in who we are. So for me to really just sit and be like devastated and in this place where I can't move forward, it would be so uncomfortable and probably more detrimental to me than for me to just kind of say, hey, I got to keep going. I need to figure out what's going on. And I think that's a common theme that I hear with my guests and the other people's stories that come on the show, similar to what you say, is when we deal with these losses, we start to examine life a little bit differently. A lot, let's just say a lot differently.
Yeah.
And because of that, I think that allows us to be able to grow, where people could feel so stuck trying to figure out why, the why part. Because I have felt myself at sometimes with losses, and maybe you can speak to this, where you are in that moment of trying to really figure out and dissect, like, how could this happen to my brother? What happened? Where did they go? And you're telling all these stories, and it just doesn't make sense. How can someone be smiling and then going like that?
Right.
And then that can maybe make you spiral a little bit more.
Right. So, like, because one of my favorite quotes that I ever, like, I'm a big 50 fan, but he said this in one of his interviews. He was like, you know, when he asked him about how he got shot, you know, obviously that's traumatic. It's like, you know, whatever case may be, he was like, you know, when you get hit, like how I got hit, or I just put it in tragedy period, you know, sometimes life, either your fear consumes you or you become a little bit more insensitive. And it's like this weird balance that, like, there's times where I feel my heart not being completely like, I don't care about that anymore, you know, and it's, sometimes for certain people, it's scary for certain people because they're not used to feeling like, I don't really care. I didn't think that I would get to this point, but, like, it's a cliche to say because everybody says it, but it's like, no, if you understand the feeling of, like, not really caring, it's kind of scary because you're not feeling anything. And you're like, it's the first time I don't know if I didn't know how to feel something right now, you know? I don't know where this is coming from, you know? And a lot of times it's post-traumatic stress. It's a lot of stuff that happens that gets you to that point. So for me, I've seen that balance in the last, I would say, 4 years now. So I do agree with you when it comes to that. And that's, I feel deep. Like,
that's deep. I've never thought about that because I'm wound so tight that I feel like I always care.
Right.
And I feel like I've heard people, I know I've heard people kind of say that, where you get to this place of, I don't really care, and that's kind of scary to not feel.
Right.
I think, and I don't want to speak this into existence, sometimes I wish I had a little bit more of that, where I could just, like, turn it off. So I'm also sober. So I've been in sobriety. I've been sober for 13 years.
Oh, congrats.
Thank you. And so with that being said, it's one of those things where I have to always be on. So whatever feeling and emotion, I don't have to, I choose to, because I choose not to drink or to do drugs or anything like that. So I don't really have that moment where I can just kind of, because I think being drunk or drinking is like one of the, I guess, the closest steps to not feeling or just being in this, like,
it's a little numbing.
Like, I don't really care. And whatever, you take that off. So I don't have that option on the table for me right now.
Right.
So that's where I'm like, man, I'm kind of envious sometimes of people who can shut off things. I feel like I have family members that are kind of like that, and at times I've gotten like, man, like, it seems like you don't care. Like, why aren't you expressing the same, I guess, like pain maybe?
And I've gotten that lately. And I said, to me, one of the weirdest moments, just period for me, was like the funeral for the situation. Because, my brother is actually buried maybe, I want to say, I'm estimating, but I would say about 15 to 20 steps from Jose. So when the funeral happened, and they, to bury the casket, to put the casket down, my vision, and I tell people this was my actual vision. I'm watching the casket come down because, they got the family sitting in the front. And as the casket comes down, Jose's grave is right there. So the chair, because they always have this Collingswood chair at Jose's grave, so everybody knows it's him. So I'm watching my brother go down and looking at Jose's chair at the same time. And I think that was the first time I felt that same feeling, because it didn't feel real, obviously. I'm sitting here okay, this feels like a movie. It felt like, not to get weird, but I feel like I'm supposed to be turned into a superhero or something after that. The tragedy deaths, and then it's you can't write that your brother and your best friend died a year apart from each other, not even a year apart from each other, and then you're burying basically them next to each other. It's it's pretty weird. So I would say I can understand that. I could definitely understand that kind of envious when it comes to that, because I didn't know what that was either until that moment. Honestly, I didn't know, because it didn't feel real. It took me from a feeling at that point.
Wow. And so people are giving you grief in terms of saying you're not reacting or responding or showing certain feelings because of your brother's loss?
I think it's a balance, because there's times where I don't and there's times where I do, and people are scared of that I'm kind of still smiling, and I'm trying to, people, they don't know how to handle that sometimes. And I keep it straight up simple. This is what I believe in, to be honest with you. I don't have no other answer. I wish I can give you a super test why I laugh, or why I smile, why I still be goofy when I'm out. But I honestly believe it's because I understand my brother was not in pain anymore. People don't understand that. It's this world is very cruel. It's very evil, but at the same time, there's a lot of love in it. You just got to find it. And it's so much harder to find love than it is to find hate in this world. So easy to find it.
So when you say that about your brother not being in pain anymore, I want to just dig a little bit there, if you don't mind, because I feel like I've said that before.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I wholeheartedly felt that way.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So I have had family members. My father, he passed away with cancer, and at the end of it, he was really struggling.
Right.
I can get emotional now. He was really struggling, and I remember saying to him when he was in hospice, and I'm like, Dad, it's okay.
Yeah.
You can go.
Right.
I know you're suffering. I know you're struggling. It's fine.
Right.
And at this point, he wasn't really as responsive, so he wasn't really saying much. But not too long after, I think that was probably within less than 24 hours, he passed away. And I've kind of beat myself up a little bit about that, because I'm like, why did I say that? I feel like that's what I read in a hospice manual. I literally read this, where when the person is in that position, if you say some things like that, it kind of gives them a little bit more of, I can stop fighting and just go on.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, did I really mean that? But then it's kind of selfish, because what you're saying, if they're not in pain anymore, then that's got to be a better situation for them. But what I really want is for them to be here. So I kind of struggle with that.
I'm with you on that 1,000%. It just hurt me more to see my brother struggling on earth. I tell people that's my superhero. That's the first person I ever wanted to be like in life, ever. Everybody has one, especially when you're the youngest brother of three. My brother played sports. He was a running back and a cornerback. I played running back and cornerback. My brother wore number 21. I wore number 21. My brother's name was Derrick. My first rap name was Lil D. The school called me that. That's how I got that. You'll see what I'm wearing today. So to me, was finding out Superman bleeds. And that's crazy to think that, because you don't really see that. You got to write a whole new comic book to make that story. So to me, from the stories I grew up, there's no way he's supposed to be able to bleed. And when I saw him bleeding before he left this world, which is emotionally, when his best friend died, I never saw my brother like that. I was intimidated that my brother was looking up to me. I didn't know how that was. When I'm at my concerts and he's sitting over there and he's like a fanboy right now, I'm like, what? This is weird. You're supposed to be my, who I look up to. So when that happened, he came in and he was in my room for the first 3 months or so, and he ended up getting bigger and everything. And I just remember having a real heart-to-heart conversation with my mom, and we both understood that it was just a little bit different. And my exact words to my mom was, "My brother is rotting in there." And I felt that. I knew that. I know my brother. I know he wasn't doing well. And I know mentally he was struggling. And it was just like, you know, I want him to be happy. I want him to be satisfied. I don't want him to struggle here anymore. You know, I've seen too many people that I love go through crap, you know, and I thought about all this stuff. I thought about, you know, we lost a fire. You know, he was with me when we were here, when we were young. You know, I was in 6th grade when we were homeless. You know, our house caught on fire, and the first time I ever been separated from my family. My brother's in college. My oldest brother is staying with his best friend, and I'm 11 years old, and I'm like about to go to middle school, and I don't have my brothers to help guide me at this point. And my mom's a single mother, so she's working endless nights. So I'm at this point where I'm seeing all that. I remember all the things that we've been through. You know, my aunt and all this, and I'm like, you know, my brother just doesn't need to be in pain anymore. And I think that was my hysterical cry, was more or less about the fact that I knew he was not in pain anymore. And I knew how much he was suffering. My brother's been suffering with depression since his best friend died. And anybody who's been around him knows that. So, you know, and there was times man, it was crazy. There's times we would have like little like bouts going at it, you know, because I just wasn't used to seeing my brother like not in that position, you know. And eventually he got on the ground running. I actually helped him out. We were helping each other out together. He started his fitness, his D. Scott Fitness Club, and you know he was doing stuff in Knights Park when the pandemic, and he had teachers, principals, you know, football players, still to this day that come up. That's why he was on Fox News and they were talking about him. You know, he was training these people through the pandemic, like we're gonna move, and I just like was so proud of him to see him leave Earth on a positive tip. I didn't want to see him, you know, 3 years and somebody find out, you know, he passed away in his sleep in an apartment room, and he was basically rotting in there. And that's not him. I didn't want nobody to see that. So, you know, yeah, I 1,000% feel that that loss, but it would have been selfish of me because I knew what he was going through. I knew he was not okay. And I just would have wanted him here just because I would have said I wanted him here. It's not fair to me, and that's not part of God's plan. I feel like he was going for a reason. His impact is beyond felt. When I did I told people I did the memorial, you know, the night after, and I did one with Jose. We helped with Jose, and then I did one with my brother at the Collingswood football field. Shout out to Coach McEwen and the Collingswood team. They already know we're doing this year. But, you know, he ended up calling me and said, "Yeah, what do you want to do?" I said, "Man, you know, the only place my brother would want to do is on the football field. I think that's the best way." I didn't know how many people was going to be there. Didn't know Fox News. Collingswood took care of that. We ended up having 640 people during the pandemic that covered up a football field for my brother, and Fox News was there. And yeah, and I think that was the hardest. That was the hardest time because I had to really, obviously, I was trying to be on cloud nine the whole time. Shout out to my brother Rob, because it was a point in time I had to go let the gates in, to go let my mom in like a secret passageway because they had to close the gates. People were climbing over the gates to get on to the field because they had to close it because of the pandemic. And so I get over there, and me and my boy looked at me, and it's the first time he ever caught eyes with me. He's like, "Yo, this is crazy, bro." I said, "Yeah, I know this is crazy." And I had to walk my mom in, and you know, I just wanted her to feel a little bit at home because it was the first time being out. So I had her song Fred Hampton, "No Weapon," and she came out to that. And yeah, and I tell people, even my dad, you know, like I haven't had like the greatest relationship with my dad at all. We're still building at this point. You know, my dad was, like I said, my mom was a single mom, and he's the exact twin of that. You know, like Derrick actually was struggling with some of the things my dad was struggling with. So my dad was beating himself up, you know, feeling like, man, you know, like he was saying, like, "Barbara, this was, you know, this, I was dealing with that. You should have let me have that conversation." You know, no fault to my dad, but you know, he was struggling with his own world. He didn't get a chance to be in our lives in totality, even though he loves well. He loved us the best way he could. You know, the first time I seen him with his parents, you know, I saw my grandma throwing stuff at him. You feel what I'm saying? So like, I knew his relationship with love wasn't the same with mine, when my mom was. And maybe I felt like that's probably why it didn't work, because it was a little bit of jealous and envy when it came to that. But at the end of the day, you know, I didn't see my dad since I was a freshman in high school, since I was like 14, 15. You know, first time I seen my dad since I was 14, 15 was after Derrick died, you know, and it was on that field. So I'm introducing the whole world, 600 people, like, hey, this is my dad. This is who birthed us, you know. And then my stepdad is there, and then my mom is there, my uncle is there, and I'm like sitting in the center, and it's kind of like the world of the shoulder, like the world was just on my shoulders at that moment. And then low key, I was like, I don't know, you know, I prayed this out. I think that's the one thing that kind of kept me there. But Yeah, man. I don't know. I know I said a lot, but
no, you said a lot of great things, and your wisdom is really going to be helping a lot of people in this conversation because you said so much. I'm trying to think of all the things, but even just the fact of certain relationships not being able to work based on the love that we were shown and weren't shown, even with your dad and your brother and your dad and your mom and just the whole circumstance and the jealousy. I mean, so many of these things play a part. And I think when we lose people, situations like that happen where you start to see family members and people, and in your case, your father, who you hadn't seen before. So trying to find those spots, those glimmers, the little pieces of gold in a situation, maybe are things like that. So not to say, because I still work through this happens so that this can happen and that can happen. When we talk about our loved one's life being the cost of, if you want to look at it that way, this opportunity. So meaning, hey, your brother passed away. Now you can build a relationship with your dad. Like, I don't know how I feel so much about that, but I think that, but if we are trying to find positive lights, we can maybe say, hey, maybe that's one, maybe that's a possibility.
All right.
But you feeling that it would have been selfish for you not to look at it the way and having the opportunity to see your brother get on the up and up, get moving, and have that positive part and that impact that he had right before. I feel like that's another opportunity to see like the good there, because we can't erase the bad, right? No. And I think a lot of people, when I'm having these conversations about grief and loss, we're super fixated. And of course, it's hard to not be zeroed in on the pain and zeroed in on the heartbreak and the devastation and frustrating and the anger. But you have this way about you that kind of, I'm smiling as I'm saying that, because you challenge the norm when it comes to grieving. So you help us to say, is there something more here? What light can we find, even in my struggle, even in my darkness? Like, what are some of the positives? I think that's beautiful.
Because I always look at it like, why does everybody's famous line and things that happen is getting picked on? Why is life got to be picked on? Why can't it challenge you? Why can't you change picking the challenge? You know, it's a simple word, but saying God's picking on you instead of God's challenging you is such a click. But at the same time, it's a mindset, it's a mentality of saying that, like I said, you know, my cry was more about, thank God my mama, you know, he ain't got to deal with this crap no more, because the world is not really okay for pure heart. Pure-hearted people get challenged a lot. They get tested with a lot. You know, they get scapegoated a lot. And, you know, that's why I looked at it like God said, nope, you done. You did the job. You know, you did everything I needed you to do. Your impact on here is going to be going long after. We only here temporarily anyway. You feel what I'm saying? So we blessed to make it to 100, if that fact. But at the same time, you can make an impact in 2 years. You know, you can make an impact in 2 months. But it's like, how many people do you actually want to help? How many people do you actually want to touch? I'll say one thing that I remember from the like I said, I remember from the funeral too as well, that guided me, because my mom's that's like somebody, my rock right there. And you know, there was a point that I almost lost it, which is the covering of the body. Absolutely, when you have the cover of the casket, and you know, my mom, you know, she had to put the veil over him, and I went up there, and I never experienced nothing like that in my life, because I never saw my mom like that, you know. And my mom, of course, minister. I'm thinking she's the strongest woman since She-Hulk. So to see her literally not be able to almost hold herself up to get that over his face, and you know, my uncle, which is my Uncle Herman, he ended up losing his daughter early. It was another situation. My cousins he was schizophrenia. He ended up killing his own sisters. And this is all within the same family that I'm in. And so he lost his daughters early. So he knows what it's like to lose a child. We have 7 aunts and uncles. All of them are like moms and uncles to us. There's no moms and dads. There's no little, oh, that's a cousin. There's all sisters. So when he came up, and you know, my uncle could barely walk, you know. So when he came up to go help her up, because that's his sister at the end of the day, I had a different sense of like kind of a confirmation of spirituality. Like, yo, I think we're going to be okay. And that's what my mom was saying the whole time when she was coming up, like, you know, you got him now. So that was kind of what it was for me. And I think that was the hardest moment throughout the entire time. I thought it was the burial, but to me, it was watching my mom cover his face for the last time before the casket was closed.
It's so difficult that we have to do that.
Yeah.
I have really thought, why do we do that? Because when I had to do that too in my experience, it is like the wail, the scream, when you have to see mothers putting that over their children, it is like a whole. I mean, I can only imagine how you all felt and how you felt in that moment. It's certainly one that breaks us down. I don't know why we actually do that as part of services.
I actually don't know either. I didn't think about it till after.
It's so difficult. It's like, I don't know who I could ask. I'm going to have to find out because it's so hard. I guess it's like, would you want to do it, or would you want to see the funeral directors or those people doing it? I don't know. I think it's a toss up, because it could be like, oh, that's not disrespectful, but like why are you doing that to my person? And then it's like, do I really want to do this to my person too? So I think it can go.
Trust me, I see it every time I tell people, listen, man, that part is hard already as it is, and just watching a mother. I mean, I've done seen it twice now. So in the last year, I done seen a mother cover her child twice. I don't want to see that no more. So that's the one thing. And both of those situations were avoidable. These were not random car accident situation. These were, in a way, from a devil standpoint, premeditated murder. You feel what I'm saying? Like, somebody, it was supposed to take their life out and away from them. But that's okay, because when you mess with God, people, that's what happens. You're going to have energy that comes back that people don't know why people are inspired right now, and that's why I go so hard to be back in the community, because, people are not going to forget why they were there. People are not going to forget why these people were here. So what we're going to do is we are going to do school drives. We are going to do Easter egg hunts for churches. We are going to make sure that these clothes are going to everything, and I don't care if I do it myself right now, but if you ask people around me right now, that's the one thing I've been doing. I've been around in the neighborhood trying to impact, because we don't know how long I'm going to be here. And I want God to be able to say, when I go up and say, good job, you did a good job. That's my goal. That's my only goal. So if I did that, I'm successful.
That sounds good. Listen, this has been a great conversation with you, as always.
Of course.
So I'm curious. I asked you this 2 years ago. You may not remember. I don't know that I remember exactly what the answer was, but if you had to choose a color for your grief at this point in your journey, what would it be and why?
I think, if I mistakenly remember, I think I chose red and blue for different reasons. And you know what? I think I actually do still feel this way, because I'm learning. I haven't found out the color. Put like this, I haven't found out the color to make sense. But it is one color now. It's not red and blue. They're not separate anymore. Both those feelings are meshed together. So what is it, purple? Would that be purple if it's blue and red?
You're probably more of an artist than I am.
So if that's the case, then that's what the color is. But right now, and I said those two things, was just like, there's a side of me that's very, angry and very motivated, and there's another side of me that's very vulnerable, and kind of heartspoken. And those two have a conversation with each other every day. Those people are sitting there going like, how's your day going? And they picking and choosing on which one is going to do what. And now, since all the stuff is starting to die down a little bit, they're starting to come together as one collective thinking mind, like, yo, it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be angry. Before, they were separated. It was like, I have to be angry. I have to be mad. And they have to be, today, Tuesday, my sad day. Tuesday, my sad day. Wednesday is my angry day. And you just learn like, whoa, okay. It's okay to feel these things. It's not always okay to act on these things, but you're human. You're going to feel them. So that's what I'm learning now. So if I could describe it, it's red and blue coming together, which is purple.
Love that. You killed that before, and I do remember now. The red and the blue, and you definitely killed that again. Always causing us to think. So our In Love and Memory segment is a part of our show where we like to just highlight, say the name of one of our loved ones or multiple people, depending on the circumstance, when we have someone on the show. So with you being here, I want to definitely say in love and memory to your brother, Derrick Scott. I want to continue to send my prayers and my condolences and just of comfort and strength for yourself and your mother and your other brother and your family, your dad, as you guys continue on this journey of healing. Let the people know where they can follow you, find more of what you got going on, your music, and just you as a person.
Absolutely. You guys can follow me at Kev Rodgers on everything. The only thing that's different is Twitter. There's Kev Rodgers and an underscore at the end. Or you guys can be simple and search on Google. Kev Rodgers and musical artist will pop up with all my links. I just dropped a new single called MVP, which is actually inspired by my brother and everything like that. My whole thing in a hook, I'm saying I'm an MVP, not because I'm fighting crime, I'm being me. And I kind of wanted people to self-challenge themselves to say, I'm saying in those things, because I'm taking care of my family, because I'm helping out in the community. That's why I'm an MVP and most valuable person or most valuable player in life. You feel what I'm saying? And of course, I'm involved with sports, so I had a nice little way to tie it together. We got the video coming out shortly, and I'll Shout out my guy, Jared Jones-Smith, he came from Collingswood, but he was in the NFL, and he played for the Raiders, so he let me have his jersey to wear in the video. So I'm like, got this whole little family. My mom's in it. My brother's in it. My whole family's in it. It's going to be in this video. I got everybody from Derrick's friends involved in it, and Collingswood let me shoot in the community center. So it's like a real MVP speech thing going on. So excited for that. So check me out.
Sounds dope. Definitely going to check you out. Keep following you. You're always welcome on the show. You know
Absolutely.
that this is going to be a second home for you. You have my love, my support. I'm always in your corner. Guys, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Grief Bully Podcast. Make sure you leave a comment, hit that subscribe button. If you're listening to the audio, leave me a review. I certainly love it. You already know where I hang out the most. Make sure you follow me there over on Instagram at I_am_J.Nicole. Guys, so next time, you already know. Love and light. Peace.